Welcome to Mission Driven Founders, where passion meets purpose. If you're dreaming of starting your own business, whether it's in beauty, wellness, or beyond, you're in the right place. We are going behind the scenes with inspiring entrepreneurs who are not just building brands, but driving real change. So hit subscribe, tap the bell for updates, and stick around. This conversation could be the spark that ignites your journey. Today, we're excited to introduce Julie Williams, the founder of Leaf People. A certified herbalist and world traveler, Julie created her Colorado based skincare to marry ancient plant wisdom with modern clinical results. Since 2003, she has formulated high integrity, ethical sourced products that are as kind to the earth as they are kind to the skin. From their Carbondale headquarters, Leaf People produces 11 botanical collections while giving back to the planet through partnerships with United Plant Savers and the Ocean Cleanup. Now, let's dive into Julie's inspiring journey and see how she's contributing to our movement and making a difference in the world. Julie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We are so excited too, because I was telling you before we started the podcast that I love your products. I have a whole collection that Julie sent for eye treatment and serums and face wash and the face toner and this oh my gosh, this facial scrub, the honey one is just, it's Manuka honey that you use.
There's some Manuka
Wait,
honey in there. Or is that the
Manuka honey.
marshmallow?
No, marshmallow turmeric. We're gonna get into the products soon because I am really excited about your products. I just love them. So, first question that I want to ask you is the traditional brand's journey. So, your brand's journey is really truly inspiring. Can you take us back to the moment that it all began and what sparked the idea and how did you turn this into reality, into this amazing skincare line?
The journey has been, it's been lifelong. I started really hanging out with plants and, communicating with them when I was a child. My family was we lived very much in nature in the forest. And my mom was always like, we got to go talk to the plants and spend some time with the plants. And every plant had personalities and names and were there for specific reasons. And so I grew up with this behavior of really like understanding that plants were actual beings, that were like part of our world. And um that thread really went through all of my formative years. And then when after college, I went on a 3.5 year trip around the world. And that was where I really formally got introduced to botanical medicine as like a type of study that you could study this and do something with it and have a profession. And so I ended up studying botanical medicine on several continents, Australia and New Zealand, South America, a bit in Asia, Africa, and England. I mean, in Europe, including England. But the main inspiration came from my time in the Amazon. I spent 9 years going back and forth to South America, where I spent a lot of time in the Amazon and the Andes. And it was really in those periods of time where I was studying with, indigenous plant teachers and different types of healers and healing techniques and energy work and spending, like sometimes weeks at a time in the jungle, in meditation. And the message came to that I was here to be like a conduit for the plants, like a conduit of their message, from the plant form into something that people can understand. And that was really the birth of Leaf People. Was like, okay, I got to figure out a way to get their messaging from their, plant form into a form that people can easily access and understand. And when I came back from all of those travels, I went to a more traditional Western herbal school and studied Western herbalism. And that was very much the, chemical constituents and blending and how to make different medicines and things like that. And alongside of that, my botanical mentor for 22 years until she passed away, she had started an organic skincare line too. And so we did a lot of plant diets and different plant symposiums, as long as my private training with her. And so that working with her kind of helped me understand, like, okay, I can actually put this into a product and really preserve the energy and the messaging of the plants so that it gives them an avenue to connect with people.
That is an incredible journey.
Yeah.
So, years and years of research all over the world to get to this beautiful skincare line that is so intentional. It's not just, let's put together, let's get someone to create a nice packaging and let's get the product out there. This is really an intentional product that you created through so much research and wow, Amazon, Europe, you went everywhere. It's 17 countries, right? That
Right.
you went
17 countries.
all over
Mhm.
the place.
Yeah.
How many years did it take all this research?
Well, the big trip was 3.5 years straight.
Mhm.
And then I've spent probably a total of about 9 years kind of in, traveling. I've lived overseas a couple of times for, a year and a half outside of that 3.5 year stint. And then my time in South America, going down there every year for 9 years, that totaled about, because I'd be there from anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks at a time. So that was, over another year or so. I also I studied Buddhism and am a Buddhist practitioner for over 20 years. And so I spent a lot of time in silent retreat, which was very remote in the forest. So that again was like another, very private, quiet, personal time with the plants to really meditate and communicate with them. And so, yeah, it's probably a good 10 years of just that, you know? Yeah.
So that might have been also a very healing journey for you, like spiritually and just like
Yeah,
wow, when you came
absolutely.
back, you were so ready.
Yeah, you learn so much, and a lot of these trainings, you are very, like, private, you're on your own, so sometimes in the Buddhist retreats, you are 100% on your own, you don't see another person, you don't talk to anybody else, you don't speak at all. A lot of the studying that I did in the Amazon and the Andes was small group, but kind of a similar process in that you weren't there to make friends, you weren't there to like meet people, you were there to go in your own, like, deep into your own soul, into your own being, and learn about yourself and learn to connect, and
Wow.
both inwardly and outwardly. And so
And
even
how
though we
old were you? Sorry,
oh,
how
go
old
ahead.
were you when you started this journey?
When I left for the big trip, I was around I was in, I was around 30, 29, 30, and then I came
Okay.
back in my early 30s. Yeah, and then I had lived overseas a few times before that, in my early 20s. My first, kind of live abroad experience was at 18, where I went to Belgium for a year. And that was my first exposure to really like naturopathic medicine and homeopathy. Where I lived, that was very popular. Instead of going to the doctor and getting a prescription, you treated yourself with homeopathy. And so that started at 18. Yeah. So kind of through my 20s and early 30s.
So you've been immersed in this holistic herbalism and way of living your whole entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Very, very.
it's very exciting, and it's a little bit different because of the amount of time I've been doing it, it gives you time to really like live it and embody it versus, you study these things like when I was up here in school in the Western style, you're studying things and you're memorizing things and you can regurgitate all this stuff about the different plants and you can memorize formulas or different ways of blending things like that. But the traveling and really immersing myself in, in the Amazon and in these different places was it gave me the ability to actually embody like all of that. So you become that vibration, you become that resonance instead of just kind of having it all up here as something that and you can talk about it. Like it drops down like into the heart and becomes part of your whole being.
I love that. And that's the best way to learn something is to really immerse yourself into it because then you're, like you said, you're not just memorizing formulas and information that you will eventually forget, but once you live it,
Yeah,
you are a living breathing creature of your creations, right? You're not just memorizing formulas.
yeah, exactly.
Incredible. I
Yeah.
really love it. So tell us about your ideal customer, and how do you envision your products, and how do they make a difference in their lives? Because you've been in the market for a while. You are in very prestigious stores. So how do you connect with your customers on a personal level?
Well, fortunately, here in Aspen, where the company's based in Carbondale, but we're very close to Aspen, and I spent a lot of years living in Aspen. And one thing that was really important to me was always participate in the local farmers markets. And so every summer I do the Aspen Saturday Market and the Basalt Sunday Market. The Market I think I've been in for close to 20 years with Leaf People, and it was important to me because that was a real direct connection to my customers, and they I have people who come now for that amount of time every year, like, we're back to see you, and I've seen their kids grow up and their kids are now using Leaf People, and and so that was a really great touchstone to just stay in touch with our clients, really understand what they're looking for in a skincare product, and then I would figure out how to achieve it and create more products, which is how the line grew. And yeah, so that was a really important part. And our I would say our clientele is a very they're very I want to say kind of a little bit complex in the sense that they're a lot of smart women, really driven. They're both focused on a profession, but then also either they've got a great spiritual practice or they're athletes and outdoorsy, but they're also moms and family women. And so they encompass a lot of different facets, a lot of different qualities. But with that, and they want to be doing something really good for themselves that makes them feel good about themselves, and that they can really notice a difference. And so part of it is the aesthetic difference that the products make in their skin. But the other side of it, I think, is the plant energy that's in the formulas and the essential oils, like, help them really ground in and be in touch with themselves so that they can be like the most radiant version that they can be, whether that's happiness or more present, that can show up in different ways. But a lot of comments that I get in the summertime from my clients is not only how the products make them look, it's how the products make them feel.
I love that, because you're not just selling skincare, you're selling really a ritual, and it's a self-care. Like, it's a ritual that you feel the energy in the herbs that are in the products, and
Mhm.
then you feel the results on your skin. So you can see the results, you can touch the results, but you can also feel like really deep inside, because you're participating in a ritual when you're using your products. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I felt that. It was very powerful when I was using your products. I was like, this is different than anything I've ever tried, because it really connects with you, like how the products smell. It's very herbal, like it's not something, that there's nothing artificial inside, because you can smell like you're walking in nature when you're using these products. I was very impressed. I was like, wow, and I had not met you before, and I was like, these products are something special.
I do that with the formulating. Like, I don't like I want people to really experience the aspects of the plants, and that so we do use beautiful essential oils in some of the formulas. So you can have that gorgeous rose or neroli and, very uplifting and bright scents. But I kind of also, somewhere in the line, leave in a little bit of that, like, foresty or earthy or grounding, so that when you're using it, like, yeah, this is the real deal. Like, nothing's being covered up, nothing's being manipulated in any kind of way. Like, we're getting the real, like, force and voice of these plants through the product.
Right. And when you smell the products and you read the ingredients list, it's like you're smelling each plant, or each herb that is inside the product. And that's really interesting too. When I was trying the products, I was like, no fragrance here. There's nothing, hiding. Like you said, there's nothing hiding anything. And the connection you mentioned with the plants, you really are speaking to plants when you're using your products. I mean, a lot of people are going to say, okay, these two ladies, where are they going? But with the being friends with plants. But people who like plants and garden, they know
Yeah.
that speaking to your plants and having that energy connection is really important. And the same goes with everything that we do, our food, what we put inside and on and in our bodies, right? So I completely agree with that, and the intention you put in your business also reflects in the results you have with your clients. And one question that is really important to us is the sustainability and ethical sourcing that are at the heart of your brand. Could you share the behind the scenes process of how you ensure every ingredient and packaging choices reflect your values? Because we know that sourcing is complicated sometimes, it's seasonal, some ingredients are hard to find, it depends on harvest. I don't know if you have your own source, like if you have your own farm with these herbs, but what what were unique challenges that you faced in staying true to this mission when it comes to ingredients and sustainable packaging?
Well, part of what I've done in terms of the ingredients is then that was part of the formulary research and also like consultation with the plants, because all of the formulas have come out of deep meditation practices, so I kind of do the research of what kind of product I'm going to make, and then I'll with just my herbal background, I'll kind of come up with what the formula should be, and then I'll go into a meditation and check in with the plants and like who wants to be there, who doesn't want to be there, and kind of figure out the hierarchy. And then in the formula stack itself, in the herbal stack, there are some of the ingredients are specifically for that, to help plants figure out their hierarchy in the formula. And so during that process, I was really in the research phase. I mean, I studied all kinds of different, environmental patterns and weather patterns, and is this plant in any danger now? Is it going to be in the future? Like what watch lists is it coming up on? And like that's where United Plant Savers has been very helpful, because they
Mm.
really track what is endangered, what might become endangered, what's on a watch list, things like that, and where and locations. And then I've also seen personally here in Colorado and the Rockies, I mean, the horrific overharvesting of plants, that has happened, that has wiped out you know entire species from some areas. I mean, it's devastating. It makes me almost want to cry talking about it. It's absolutely devastating. And so I was very, very careful in that process to pick botanicals that I knew would be sustainable, that can be organically grown at a very high quality level. They don't necessarily have to be taken from the wild. I never wild harvest roots, like, ever. All our roots are organically grown. And then the few that we do wild harvest, since I've lived in the same place for 20 plus years, I have my areas where I harvest, and I watch them every year. I rotate locations, I keep an eye on them, I go back and spread seeds, and I'm really mindful of like how those populations are doing. I'll go up and just sit and meditate with them and give them strength and support and light for, whether or not I'm harvesting from them that year. But I can really, like, I really watch all of that, because I've seen right here in Colorado the dark side of it. I go out on hikes sometimes, and I'm horrified at like how much things have been picked out, and I'm not even there to collect. I'm just, trying to enjoy nature myself. So yeah, I'm very, very careful for that. And then in terms of our packaging, we have the Miron glass, which is beautiful, and that's the most protective to the plants. And that's part of the reason why we chose that. It really holds their vibration. It protects that vibratory quality in them, and then it's almost 100% blocking of the light. It's not quite, it's still in the high 90s, but it's more blocking to light than amber or cobalt or green or any of the other colors. And so it really protects them fully. And then our packaging is all, the boxes are compostable, and water-based inks, and the coating on the boxes is compostable and water based, and so we really, we try to keep every step of it as best we can.
That is incredible. So, how long does it take for you to develop a new product?
From start to finish, usually about a year to a year and a half. Yeah.
A
So
year to a year and a half.
it goes through its development period where I'm kind of thinking about the formula, and then I'll start making the extracts, and the extracts take time. And then typically, for myself, I'll use I'll use the extract straight for a while, like full force, so that I kind of see what it does, and then I'll know, like, okay, we'll blend it X amount with this and a little bit of that. But still, even in our face serums, um, our our extracts are at 50%, which is unheard of in common over the counter products. But yeah, I always use it kind of full force first, so then I know, like, who it wants to be with, and how we're going to blend to get the right absorption, feel, qualities that we're looking for, things like that. And then that will go through a few reiterations, and then it goes out to people for testing. We use all happy human volunteers. And then after a little bit of that, then we're usually ready to launch. Yeah, some formulas I can, do a little more quickly depending on how complex it is, but that would be more the process for like a face serum or a face cream, something that's more complex.
Okay, wow. And it's done in-house?
Yeah.
You manufacture everything. Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
And long is the shelf life of the products?
Most of them, so we do send our creams out for testing, and those do have a 2-year shelf life. And a few of the other products we do send out for, like, uh, formal testing. Uh, and those are the ones like, yeah, face creams or lotions, ones that combine the water and oils together, because those are the most tricky for preservation. And then the rest of them, I know from 20 plus years in this business, like how long they last, and I have my preservation in house pretty dialed down with the we use lucidol and grapefruit seed extract and vitamin E and things like that. And I know how effective they are and what levels. So I would say the most products are definitely 2 years.
Okay,
I'm
that's pretty
making
good.
Yeah, I'm making stuff myself every 3 months. I don't like people to have a product that is that old, so we're making stuff fresh all the time. And so typically anything you buy has been made in the last 90 days or 120 days tops. And then I like people to use it within 6 months of getting. So if I can have the whole process of us, making it, getting it to you, have you use it within like 9 months, 12 tops, then that's perfect. The ingredients that have a little bit of the shorter shelf life are the stem cells in our face creams and the peptides. So we're very careful to, really manufacture those frequently. And it's not that they're going to go bad in the like the rancid way, or it's more
Mhm.
that they will just lose efficacy.
I see.
Yeah.
That's incredible because 2 years with natural products is hard to find, but you
Yeah.
found, the right like vitamin E and the seed oils that
Well, and
are
it comes down to our, I've really fine-tuned the extraction process. So, there's plants and how they're extracted are tricky. And some of them will actually shorten the shelf life of the extraction. So, to get like horsetail, which tends to not have such a long shelf life itself, I extract that separately a different way, and then I layer that into the extract with all of the other plants in a way that won't shift the shelf life of the extract as a whole once it's done. So there's that, and that's where the herbal training comes in. Like, that's where those nuances that you get from studying under a master herbalist and going to school and things like that, you pick up these little nuances that help you have this beautiful natural preservation.
that's incredible. Do you teach herbalism?
I don't teach right now. I have taught some little, some classes in our town, for fun, like a little evening,
Mhm.
on a lighter level, but not like full on herbalism.
I mean, you have your hands full with the products, right? They
Right.
take a lot of your time and energy. It's a lot of dedication to create these products. And also building a brand is a journey filled with highs and lows. It's
Hmm.
not just creating amazing products. Can you tell us about a particularly tough moment that you went through, and how did you push through, and what lessons did you learn as a founder? What can you maybe, teach other aspiring founders, people that want to go into a product or a service? What challenges did you face, and how did you turn that into a lesson or an opportunity?
I think I think one of the hardest moments, I would say, lessons potentially was, I had started Leaf People, and we were a few years in, and you do hit a point as an entrepreneur where uh you kind of realize, like, I've invested so much in this. There is no failing now. Like, I can't afford to fail, whether it's money or time or both or whatever it is. Like, you realize, you wake up one day and you're like, yeah, this we're going, it's all the way. It's all the way or no way. And you have to really make that decision to be, to hunker down and be all in. And then that leads to a succession of other decisions you have to make of, how much are you going to sacrifice, how much are you going to commit. And I always had the reputation with my friends as being, the hardest working woman they know, because it's, be like, no, I can't go to the movies tonight or go to dinner tonight or meet you wherever, because I'm working on formulas, or I've got extracts at home, or I've got, whatever it is happening, that I need to oversee and pay attention to. And 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 really, I guess, in a certain way, having enough, like a combination of confidence to a certain extent, but just adherence to your own vision, that you just dive in both feet. Doesn't matter what other people are saying. Your truth, and you're gonna push it through and out into the world, and without, letting anything else deter you. Like, it's, you know, all in.
You're laser focused on your mission, and nothing is going to take you away from that mission. And I know, because there's so many ups and downs in owning a brand and creating your own products, manufacturing your own products, and then marketing your own products.
Yeah.
It is like you're wearing all the hats all at once. And like you said, sometimes you just can't have a social life, or you can't, you have to give up on so many things. But when you stay true to your mission, it's worth it. It's worth every sacrifice. Or some people say sacrifice, and say people say it's not a sacrifice when you love what you do,
Right.
but you still are giving up on certain things that you could be doing. And if you have friends and family, and it's hard.
Hmm.
But I love your focus. I love your mission, what you're doing, what you stand for. And is there anything special about happening right now with Leaf People that you want to share with us? Any events? Did you participate in, just recently, or that you're going to participate in any product launches?
Well, yeah, we've got some exciting things. We, in terms of products, we launched some new beautiful herbal lactic acid masks, and we just built those into these wonderful 3-step skincare capsules to really just make it super easy to get the results that you want, to have, yeah, great results in with few steps without having to get too complicated with your ritual. And those are really fun and exciting. And then on the broader Leaf People front, I've started recording our own podcast, which is like conversations with botanicals. And I'm an Akashic records reader, so I'm opening my records, the plants records, and then we're just having a chat on video, and getting a lot of really interesting information. So I've started recording those, and I'll go into editing this spring and then hopefully have them releasing in June. But that's been a really fun project, and I think something that's a little bit different from what's out there. So I'm really
Yeah,
excited about that.
so interesting. Fabulous, actually. So, what is the name of the podcast?
Right now, we're just calling it the Leaf People Podcast, and you will be able to find it at the Leaf People website, and then we'll have it on YouTube and audio only versions on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, things like that. But one great way to find out about it is to sign up on our newsletter, which is on the homepage, the bottom of the homepage of our website. Because as these develop and we get close to launching and actually launch, then we'll be sending out information, where you can find them and hear these stories.
That's fantastic. I'm going to listen to your podcast for sure.
Yeah.
I love it. So, there's something that's really, really close to my heart at Crunchy Mama Box, which is our giving back chain, where brands and consumers unite to support the planet and the community. Leaf People has a powerful commitment to this, and especially including your work with United Plant Savers and the Ocean Cleanup. What inspired these partnerships, and how do they reflect the deeper mission of Leaf People? How do you work with them? Let's get into a little bit more detail on that.
Well, yeah, the deeper mission with that is really to, give back to the plants that, have really given me my life. If it wasn't for all these amazing medicinal plants, I wouldn't have this company. And I really see myself in the role of service to the plants. That's my life mission, that's my professional mission, that's the mission of the business, is to be in service to the botanical kingdom. And so, uh, United Plant Savers, I've been in touch with for decades. I've helped with their sandalwood reforestation project, and in terms of our financial donations in Hawaii to bring back the indigenous sandalwood on the Big Island of Hawaii that was overharvested to almost the point of extinction, and those trees are coming back nicely. And that's most of the work that I've done with them. But Susan, who runs United Plant Savers, is an amazing woman and an amazing warrior for the botanicals. I highly recommend you checking out what they do. And I've met her in person a few times. Yeah, she's just phenomenal. And then our work with the ocean cleanup. And then we also donate to surf riders too on the ocean side. And that came out of our Ocean Blue product line, which I developed a few years ago during the year of the water tiger. And it's a smaller collection. It's really focused on the water element, connecting to uh, your own internal water element as well as the water element on the earth, and that that sort of, because water kind of connects all of us too. We're connected to the plants through air, but we also need water. The plants need water. The earth needs water. That's another big connecting thread between all of us. And so I made this collection that it's the main scent is the blue lotus, which is a water connected botanical and very, very beautiful. Also, connects you to your higher self and opens your mind. But then the herbs that play a role in there, we do have, we've got marine algae for the elasticity, but I put in a nice lymphatic like a lymphatic flow botanical profile. And so it helps move your own water element within you, which is just amazing. Um,
Oh,
and yeah, so with that collection, I was like, we should really have the donation piece go to something that's also directly water driven. And that is why we chose the ocean cleanup and surf riders.
really, really amazing work. I love that.
Yeah,
Really do. Wow. There's a lot of history behind your brand, a lot going on there.
I'm very grateful to have it. Very grateful.
Yes, it is a blessing. This company is really mission driven, and you can see the purpose. I mean, you can feel the energy when you speak about the company. You can feel all the mindfulness, everything that you do inside the the products and also what you give out to your community, to your clients. It's
Mhm.
really special.
Mm. Thank you. Mhm.
At the heart of our community is our CMB certification, which stands for Clean, Mindful, and Balanced, a benchmark for brands that lead with transparency, sustainability, and high performance ethics. Your brand seems to naturally embody all those three pillars. From your perspective as a pioneer who has been doing this since 2003, how do you feel these types of standards help a consumer finally find their home with a brand that they can truly trust? What's your opinion?
I mean, I think these benchmarks are wonderful. There's so much noise in the field, right? In the field of skincare and beauty. And so I do think that some of these types of certifications will really, it just sort of helps people weed through so they can get down to, like key brands or key elements, and then that's where they put their focus, to make their decision. It just sort of helps separate the crowd a little bit. So, and I think it's really wonderful. I looked over your certification, and it's so complex and well rounded. You've done an amazing job.
Thank you. We really created this because our consumers were asking us. Before,
Mhm.
we used to have a marketplace, which we don't have anymore. We're focusing only on educating our consumers and creating really a publication, a platform where people can get educated on ingredients and certifications, not just ours, but everything that's out there, because there's so much noise,
Mhm.
right? There's the
Mhm.
greenwashing, the health washing, the well washing, and consumers get overwhelmed, they get confused, and we get a ton of calls every day like, what do we use, what do we do, what works for me, what works, for my family. So we said, you know what, let's do this. And we don't certify a lot of brands
Mhm.
because we want to keep our values really really aligned with the brands that we're bringing in. We don't want to just, it's not just a certification that you just, give out like that.
Right.
So when I saw your brand, I said they're eligible, but of course it's optional. You don't have to get certified. But I like that we're having this conversation and that we can educate our audience on such a wonderful product company and, your vision, your mission that is so aligned with our community here at Crunchy Mom Box, and the mission driven podcast founders podcast that is being listened to all over the world, especially Brazil, where I'm from. So it's
Oh,
really
wonderful.
interesting that,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
from Brazil. So a lot of Brazilians, I was in the Brazil, I started in the Brazilian market and then I moved to the US. So a lot of my clients, distributors, and retailers that I had in Brazil, they listen to our podcast here. In that is We're based in the US, but of course you have a podcast, you're all over the world. So it's interesting that we get, on the stats, we look at all the countries and a lot from Brazil, Canada, US. And I'm like, oh, that's good because they're still with me, my community back from Brazil. But I love that you've been, I mean, I've been in the Amazon in the Brazil side of things. You went to Peru, right?
I've been in the Amazon and the Brazilian, Peruvian, and Bolivian. So all
And
three, yes,
Bolivian.
yeah,
Okay.
so all
Oh,
three
wow.
of those
So you've been to
areas.
the Brazilian too.
Yeah, yeah,
Really cool. I
yeah,
love that. That's a good connection that we have with the Brazil Amazon forest.
yeah.
It's a magical place,
It's
isn't it?
magical. It's life changing. Yeah.
It is. What was the difference you saw between the Brazilian Amazon, the Bolivian, and the Peruvian, like energy wise or anything?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really liked being studying in the Amazon on the Brazilian side was that when we did come across people or meet people and work with the locals, I gotta say they were really like fun and friendly, like fun and friendly. The Bolivians amazing, but very a little bit more like we're like tradition, and you got to sit in your posture for so many hours a day, and you only get to drink this or eat that, and like more structured. And then the Peruvian side was kind of, I would say, like in between the two. And but then the Brazilians were like, oh, life and happiness, and you can do that, but you can also still enjoy. And there was this sort of like nice, it was a little more bubbly, it was a little more bubbly, I would say.
Brazilians are like that. No matter if you're up in the North Amazon, or if you're in the South, we just love, enjoying having fun. And we're so open. We're very open,
Yeah, yeah, there was,
um,
like,
right?
no
Nationality
bullying.
community. We love we love when people come visit, and I'm sure that when you were visiting in the Amazon, they wanted to show you everything. When I went to the Amazon, also we went to all these tribes, and we were learning and eating everything they were cooking, and it was, picking herbs and flowers and fruits and roots. It was amazing, and
Yeah,
they're very open, so it's a
very
great place
open.
if you want to go where you want to just, I mean, if you want to start in Brazil, it's great because you're in a very open place, and then you go to a more structured,
Right.
Bolivian, Peruvian area. But
Yeah,
I mean, I love South America, all the countries. But
yeah.
of course, my heart is in Brazil because I'm from Brazil. But
Yeah, I did it the
that's
opposite
special.
direction. We're starting in Bolivia and Peru first, and then went into Brazil, for studying later, and I was just like, "Why did I" part of me was kinda thinking that, like, "Why did I start here?" You know? To
So
begin
you
with.
ended up relaxing in Brazil then.
Exactly,
I
yeah.
love that. Oh my goodness. Julie, thank you so much for sharing your inspiring journey and for all the work that you do to create a more sustainable and conscious world. You've shown us how businesses can truly be a force for good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, and thank you so much for what you do and bringing all of these great founders together and putting our messages out into the world. It's so important, and I thank you very much for having me on your show.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate your words. And to everyone watching, remember that every choice we make can shape the future. So let's choose wisely, live intentionally, and support those who are making a difference, like our friend Julie. So stay inspired, stay motivated, and let's keep building a brighter future together.